All right, so it is 7:45 by Vasishtha Maitra Varuni. You can see this derivation, Tadhita derivation. It's for Sanskrit students. So it sounds like this. Adevo yato savita soratno antariksha pravahamano ashvaih haste dadhano nariya puruni niveshayancha prasuvancha bhuma ud asya baho shithira brihanta hiranyaya divo antam anashtam Nunam so asya mahima panishta surashchit asma anodad apasyam Saghano deva savita sahava savishad vasupatih vasuni. Sorry, asavishad vasupatih vasuni. Vishrayamano amatim oruchim Martabhojanam adharasatenah imagirach savitaram sujihvam purnagabhastim ilate supanim chitrambayo brihat asme dadhato yuyam pata swastibhih sadanah. This is the refrain. It's a signature of Vasishta's hymns. He always ends his hymns, not always, but mainly, with this signature, Yuyam Pata Swastibi Sadanah. You always protect us with your well-beings. It's referencing to the gods. So let us start from the first verse. You know, every rishi has his own signature at the end of the hymn. Some particular phrase which is used only by one rishi. So we know who is the author. Adevo yato savita soratno antariksha pra vahamano ashvaih. May the god Savitar come with his perfect riches, suratnach, filling the space between heaven and earth, antariksha pra, carried by the steeds, vahamano ashvaih. For Sanskrit people, students, you see Vahamana is the participle, Atmanepadam, and it is used as passive voice participle. So, carried by the ashvas, carried by the horses, by the steeds, but he is carrying himself with the horses, literally, because it is Atmanepadam. Yeah? I'm just saying this to Selby is here. So I was telling this many times that in the Veda, the Atmanepadam, the middle voice, and the passive voice are overlapping. It's medio passive. Haste dadhano, holding in the hand, Nariya Puruni. He holds in his hand many heroic powers, Nariya Puruni, of the souls of man. Nara, Nri in the Rig Veda, is the power of the soul. Also, Nara can be any godhead, or even gods and godheads, even great godheads, even Adityas are Naras. And there is something very interesting about this word. Later we have Nara as man only. Man are like strong man, but truly speaking, it's a heroic power of the soul. That power of the soul which agreed to descend into the darkness for this transformative work of redemption of the fallen self. We represent these naras. We represent these heroic decisions, the heroic powers of our soul, in this manifestation. It's amazing how everything comes together here in the Veda. So we have in us this hero within who really dared to take the darkness onto himself. And this darkness, this unconsciousness which we carry around us, our bodies, are unconscious, physical, vital, and open to the, to the universal vital, to the universal physical and mental. These are gradations of from unconsciousness to the most conscious way of being. So these heroic sparks, souls, agreed to enter into the manifestation for this sacrifice. This was the sacrifice. That's why the heroic powers. So Nariya Puruni, many Puruni, Nariyani, many heroic powers of the souls of man. So Savitar is charged with these powers. He kind of triggers in us the inner beings to move forward, towards the higher and higher manifestation of the divine in the darkness. So in his hand, so to say, he possesses all those powers and triggers in us when he is active. So he is kind of dawning on us from above, and our souls are immediately activated, because that is his powers. This connection between calling to the divine and divine responding, it's quite interesting how it could be. It could be that you start calling and then the divine descends and responds. Or it could be that the divine comes to you without you being aware that you are calling, and then you feel the calling within. It's not necessarily only one way that you call and the divine responds. There can be a grace coming to you without you calling, and then suddenly you feel that you're charged with this heroic power of the soul, so to say. It is being activated in you. And many times it is exactly the opposite, that the grace comes to us when we are not expecting it to come. In the gap, in the moment of our silence, suddenly the soul is activated. So you see this, that he holds in his hand, in his possession, all the powers of the soul. It is very interesting. Niveshayan cha prasuvancha bahuma, and him moving the world into and out of the night. Literally, here is the idea of involution, niveshayan, introducing the souls, so to say, and of evolution, prasuvan, literally moving forward, pushing them forward. So he is pulling them down, as it were, and pushing them forward. We are all entering through the sun into this manifestation. So he drags us down, as it were, with one hand, and with another hand, he is pushing us forward and upward to our utmost manifestation. Yeah? What is interesting here is that it is a constant motive. We already met this several times in different hymns to Savitar, that with one hand he pulls us down and with the other he is pushing us up. So involution, he involves all the divine powers and souls and the gods, and with the other hand he makes them evolve and grow in manifestation. So he is the power which acts here in manifestation on behalf of the supermind itself. It is the supramental power which was forged in the supermind, in the sun, in the body of the sun, and then the rays, his hands spread into the night. Yeah. But everything, all this, what he pushes us forward, is happening already in the material bodies. This is an important thing to understand. So why he drags us down into this inconscient? Because here the material bodies are formed around our souls. And then once they are formed, he pushes the whole development forward. So the whole redemption of the fallen self is taking place, the sacrifice. Because when the soul moves forward and taking with it all its, all that what it build around itself, all the bodies, so these bodies also evolve with the evolution, with this moving forward. So Savitar is responsible for this evolution, moving forward, and with this the whole inconscient moves forward. Finally, I kind of arrived at the point why it is important for him to drag us down, because that is the whole point of redemption of the fallen self. Redemption is taking place by us, by these heroic souls, which he has in abundance in his hand, which he activates through us as the supramental force. He activates the forces of redemption, and we move forward. You see how it beautifully fits into the integral yoga. I'm so happy that it fits. Udasya Bhava. Those who know Sanskrit, they will see immediately all these elements. They shine through, because it's maybe not so visible when you do not know the language. But when you know the language, you just wonder how perfect it is. Every word. Yeah? There is no wrong word here. Yeah? Everything functional here. Udasya Bahu Shithira Brihanta Hiranyaya Divo Antan Anashtam Nunam So Asya Mahima Panishta Surashit Asmai Anudad Apasyam. Look at this. We just already anticipated this. Appraised his arms, soft, vast and golden. His arms are rays which are reaching out from the supermind into the night, like the rays of the sun, reaching to the ends of heaven. Now one should admire that greatness of his. Nunam, now, today, in this moment of time, Saha Asya Mahima Panishta, one should admire that greatness of his. For even the sun, Surashchit, yields to him in his action. Asmai Anudada Pasyam. So the last phrase we can say, the sun, Surya, or Sura, these are two words for the sun, is giving him his activities, so to say, to fulfill itself. Sun wants to fulfill itself in a manifestation, but he provides the activities. The supermind is determining the action of Savitar. So actually Savitar is the action of the supermind. By bestowing, granting, anudad, giving dad, adad, yes, it's a aorist, giving accordingly for him, asmai, literally, for him, to him, the action to be done, apasyam. It's amazing. He actually determines what is to be done, and Savitar is fulfilling it in manifestation. There is another verse from Taittiriya, much later, of course, literature, thousands of years later, but the definition of the supermind is quite interesting. Vijñānam yajñam tanute, karmani tanute picha vijñānam deva sarve brahmajiyashtam pasate. Vijñāna, or the supermind, is spreading the sacrifice. karmani tanute picha, and all the actions. All the actions are spread in the supermind, are determined, created and spread by the supermind. Supermind is spreading them, and that is Savitar. Vijnanam Devaha Sarve, and Vijnana, all the gods, Brahma Jyeshtamopasate, worship as best spirit, Brahman. And interestingly, Brahma is also from root brich, to spread. It is something which is growing in manifestation. It's not a static, as later we understand Brahman as a static spirit in Vedanta. But Brahman is actually the spirit which invades and grows in manifestation. There's growing in manifestation, constantly moving presence of the divine. Saghano Devach Savita Sahava Savishat Asavishat Vasupatich Vasuni Vishrayamano Amatim Uruchim Martabhojanam Adhara Satenach. I am adding here this Padapatha to see how it splits. You see, we see that this A prefix is absolutely invisible here, Sahava Asa Vishat. But by the meter it should be here, so you can see A standing separately. Interpretation. Such is our God Savitar. Sagha. Gha is here emphatic particle. He indeed, for us, the God Savitar, literally. Or our God Savitar, if you will. Such is our God Savitar, the Lord of Force, Sahavan, Asavishat, Vasupatich, the Lord of Shining Wealth, Vasupatich, he should urge Asavishat, Vasuni, unto us his shining wealth. This shining wealth, this luminous dwells within the substance or the shining wealth of the divine, should be bestowed or distilled rather, Asavishat, from the beyond into this world by Savitar. Spreading far his greatest splendor, Vishrayamano Amatim Uruchim, he is bestowing upon us Rasatenach, the enjoyment which is meant for the mortals. Marta Bhojanam. We spoke about Marta Bhojanam quite a lot. In the previous hymn we had Marta Bhojanam, and in this again, Vasishtha wants to emphasize Savitar in relation to Marta Bhojanam. So this term Marta Bhojanam, the enjoyment of or for mortals, is an interesting term. It is showing specifically that the enjoyment is not for the spirits who did not take the material body, but for those who took a plunge into the inconscient. It is Soma actually, because Soma was brought down into the matter. The delight distilled by Savitar. Soma is from the same root Su from which Savitar. Savitar is distilling, and Soma is that which is distilled, actually, the divine delight. From the beyond into manifestation as sensual delight. Soma is sensual enjoyment in the body, experienced only in the physical body. Soma is the spiritual experience, Amrita Ambrosia, in the physical body. You cannot get Soma without the physical body. There is no Soma without the physical body to partake of. So that's why all the gods are attracted to this delight. They want it. That's why they come to the physical body, to our sacrifice. We invite the gods and give them the share of our delight, which they enjoy. Food, actually. Gita stays smiling already. Yeah, it is Soma. This mortal enjoyment, Marta Bhojanam, is of a specific, special kind, which attracts all the immortals, and not only the gods, but also Rakshasas, Asuras, they are all drawn to it. For only he in the physical body, the consciousness of the Lord, of the Supreme, which is beyond, can be fully manifested. And this attracts all the forces of the infinite, which makes man a battlefield of powers, of light and darkness. So they all come to partake of this enjoyment of because Soma is interestingly generated by the soul, by the experience of the soul with this interaction with the inconscient. There is something unique about Soma. You know? It is a food for the soul. Soma sustains the growth of the soul. Many times even it is identified as a soul, Soma, as the Chandrama, as the moon, is seen as soul itself, but it is not so. It's of watery, sustaining substance for the flame which is growing on it. Agni Shoma, this Dvandva of the Veda. Agni and Soma. These are two foundations of the whole process of manifestation. Agni partakes of the delight, which is distilled into this manifestation, and by that Agni builds new forms, new possibilities in this kind of redeems all the fallen self, illumines it, changes it, transforms it. But it needs Soma. Soma has to be feeding flame. And the last verse, we are quite quick. Imagirach savitaram sujivam purna gabhastim ilate supanim chitram vayo brihatasme dadhatu yuyam pataso astibhi sadanach. These voices are rising in adoration to Savitar, whose hands are full of gifts and beautiful. Establish in us your vast power, full of luminous consciousness. And you, O gods, protect us with your blessings, with your well-beings. Well-beings of the gods have to build up, pave the path towards the fulfillment of the soul. We can also translate the phrase as whose hands or rays are full of light of the supreme and perfect. So this is the whole hymn. Now we have time to discuss things.
I have a question for you.
Yes, please.
So soma is a metaphor for like a lifting of consciousness. It's not something when they talk about the wine or the drink, they're more talking about drinking in and lifting their own consciousness, or is this just a metaphor rather than something they're actually consuming?
Oh, well, of course, it is the physical representative of
Right.
intoxication, of delight, you know. You drink wine and you become happy, intoxicated, blissful. A
Yeah.
little more alcohol and you're totally blissful. Yes, it's a physical representative of the same process of bringing delight or the divine into action, here, into the physical action. Interestingly, that it matches with the same idea.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, sure.
I have a question not following on that as well. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, because my connection is a bit choppy.
Oh, yeah.
So what I'm trying to get my head around is why is it that soma, which seems to be delight, like you're saying, experienced in the physical, is stronger than in its, more essential substance? Why is it that the gods are so attracted to it, being here experienced in the physical body? Is it not even stronger when it's not bound by the physical?
Yes, no, not. Soma is a unique creation because it is distilled by Savitar for the purpose of this work, of the sacrifice. It is here to support the growing flame which is involved. Yes, the immortal among mortals has to grow. So you need to give him a delight of existence. Yeah, it has to. So this soma, which pervades the whole manifestation, is actually has to be found, crushed, distilled, brought forward, and offered to the divine, to the divine in us. So what we do wrong usually, what we misunderstand totally, what we offer to the divine is hardships of our labor, but not the delight. The delight is for us. You do everything, yeah, I give to you all my life. But when there is the payment coming back in some form, food or enjoyment, I totally forget the divine. And then when the hardship comes again, now get it, please, for me, for you. You are in charge of my life. But when the result comes, we again partake it for ourselves, selfishly. And this has to be done the opposite, the other way around. Hardships are for you, and the delight is for the divine. But we never do this. We never offer our delight to the divine in us. We forget about this. It's very easy to forget when the egoistic kind of part in us is awakened immediately. These kind of lower parts, asuric, rakshasic, paishachik, whatever, are immediately awakened in us to partake of this delight, because we are the composition of these forces. So they are fighting for this delight because it strengthens them. It makes them grow and become more powerful in manifestation, soma. For example, Vritra is considered to be the one who drank all the soma, and there was no soma in the world. He took all the soma into himself, and then Indra comes and pierces him with the lightning, and the soma flows to all. Soma is the delight for all. It is building that exchange, that enjoyment in the world, which does not belong to me. It belongs to all. It has to flow. I cannot partake it as my enjoyment. I have to feed the soul of mine and others, of the divine in us. That's what it is for. So this idea is very prominent in the Veda, and then slowly it is forgotten later. In the Gita, you see remnants of this. The one who cooks for himself, he is a thief. He should not cook for himself the delight. He has to offer it to all. Delight especially. I mean to the divine. You should support the gods, and gods will support you. We have to offer whatever delight we have to the gods, and they will support us in our growth. This is the way to go forward, as Sri Krishna says in the Gita. Thus you gain the highest good. But if we are partaking for ourselves, what we do, we are increasing these selfish elements in us, which are becoming vritras and shushnas and Piprus, and there are many names for these forces in the Veda, Panis, who are aggrandized by this partaking of Soma in us, the delight of existence. And so they are becoming the masters of the existence for a while, until there is a divine force entering like Krishna and creates Kurukshetra and kills everyone. And then he starts again anew.
So I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Jayashree.
My question is that actually it's twofold. One is that how does one offer the delight? It has got to be an inner process. There is no. Okay. And secondly, I was thinking that the faculties of consciousness, are they the tools, the means by which we grow to and accumulate soma? Because it is only when the inner faculties grow in consciousness that the delight is felt within. Delight is not an outer thing, it's something that's felt within.
Very nice, very nice. Yeah, I can see your point, really, very beautiful. Yes, it is overmatching with Vedanta that faculties of consciousness are the ones who build the selfishness in us, the ahankara, that seeing, hearing, speaking, thinking, yeah, feeling and being in the body, major faculties, annam, pranam, chakshu, shrotra, manovacha. These are the faculties which are seeking for their self-satisfaction. And they want to get soma. Soma is not only the food in the mouth, it's also for the eye, soma, the beauty, for the ear, the harmony, for the thought, for the feeling, yeah, for the touch in the body. These are the somas, the delights. The delights are many, and that is all soma. The divine ananda here in manifestation. And it has to belong to the divine and not to the lower forces. And of course, our faculties are seeking self-satisfaction, build this kind of, we are shifting into another language of Vedanta now. And your first one was something else. What did you say? First one was very interesting.
The first one was that, feeling the soma, the delight that is experienced is an inner thing. It is an delight is not an outer feeling of happiness or dependent on outer means like food and wine. Those are the outer manifestations, but the inner delight is something else.
Absolutely, but it is related to the outer delight. And Mother even speaks about this. She says, if you, when you eat, can feel that I am with you, you will feel that this food is much more tasty. If you really offer, you get that is the soma, yeah? This additional ambrosia within everything which is there. Why we are attracted to the food, to other enjoyments, why our senses, our faculties are attracted to it, because behind them there is really true ananda, the divine ananda, which we want to get. That's why we are attracted to it. That's why the whole movement forward is taking place, because soma is hiding behind every object, behind having a nice house, nice furniture, behind watching nice movie, reading good book. It's everywhere, and we want to get that delight. But then what are we doing with this? Yeah? Whom are we feeding with it? So if we join the higher and offer it to the higher, that delight, the world is changing. The delight is growing immensely, very differently. So the outer world becomes the means for getting inner delight, or even multiplied with the outer delight. The inner delight is also joining, and it becomes a unique experience.
It seems as though you can't lose the delight by offering it, because you have to experience it first in order to recognize it, in order to remember and offer. And so if it's just a matter of remember and offer, which is hard to do, but the delight doesn't go away because we don't know to offer the delight until we experience the delight. It's just that matter of keeping the remembrance of the divine constantly in every action that we do. But we're not going to be missing out on any delight by doing that. It's sort of like we have this material idea about offering that somehow then it's gone. But it's not
I
gone.
gave it to the divine, it's gone.
It's gone. Yeah.
No more delight. Divine took it and left me with nothing. It's interesting that Isha Upanishad, we never see this so closely and precisely, that the last line of the first verse is Tena tyaktena bhunjitha. Yeah, by that all world enjoy yourself as the Lord enjoys, being free from the object of enjoyment. This is double. This is the presence of the divine together with the embodied state, and that generates an immense supreme delight. That's why Soma is generated by this, and that's why all the powers in the world are attracted to it, because by partaking it, they can grow in time.
I think Soma is a force of love because it comes from love. Because when you are in this consciousness of, giving, doing for others, maybe I should, in my case, just cooking. I'm sorry to bring that up. But to offer that and to see the delight with which it is accepted and eaten and enjoyed, I think that is that is ambrosia.
Yes,
Because,
love is the force which is behind this event. Soma is not love, but the love is behind it, yes, which makes Soma come down. Yeah. You know how Soma king was born, according to Brahmanas. He was born from the oblation of Shraddha. Shraddha, the faith as a power, transcendental power, knowing what things should be, was as an oblation into the fire, into the flame of the highest heaven. So in the flame of the highest heaven, the oblation was made from which Soma king was born. So it is a very mysterious thing, Soma.
I wanted to just add one last part to this whole discussion was what my understanding is that there has to be no attachment. When there's no attachment, then you don't seek that the delight should stay.
For your senses, yes,
For
to
your,
satisfy. Absolutely.
yeah.
And you know, in the later language with senses, it is so severe, and that's why it's not attracting modern mind, because everybody wants enjoyment, and suddenly you have to be not enjoying with your senses. What does it mean, really? Vairagya, no thank you. Or spirit somewhere, go there and not here. All this is not really attracting modern spirit, modern mind. But there is some truth in it, yes. Senses should not seek their own self-satisfaction. They should seek the delight of the divine, and through them offer this delight to the divine. That's how the divine grows through them to the surface. So we would feel the divine presence in our mind, in our thought, in our feeling, the divine presence in our word, in our touch. Everywhere there will be the divine delight. Yeah? But what we do, we grab it for our self-satisfaction and make it small. So to say, we, as Isha says, Magridha, don't grab. Yeah? Kasya Svidhana, because whose wealth is it? It's already yours and you're grabbing as if it is not yours. You're putting into the pockets something which belongs to you already by default. And you are trying to, as if it is not, you are stealing it for yourself and say it is mine. Of course it is yours. Why do you have to do it? It's given. It's amazing. We just don't see it because we are so insecure in our relations that we build this kind of world on selfishness and succeeded in it because certain steps had to be made, so certain bodies had to be built. So we did it. But now, continuing grabbing, what's the point? How much is needed to be to be fed? And it's amazing if you start thinking about it.
Vladimir, did I catch you correctly? You said that Soma came as an oblation of Shraddha. You said something like this?
Yes, as a result of this oblation of Shraddha in the flame of the highest heaven, Soma king was born. He was born. It is a product of Ananda for the sake of manifestation. It was brought down, distilled by Savitar. The Ananda was pressed out into this manifestation for the sake of growth, of light. I know this is one of the most mysterious topics, Soma. But it is our central topic. We are here actually seeking only one thing, the delight. It's funny. We are all after the delight. There is nothing else we want.
And you're also saying that the experience of the light is even stronger on the earth because of it being. How would you explain that? Because in my mind, I would assume that Ananda in its purest form would be at its highest experience, being unbound by anything. How is it that it...
This is Mother, yeah, Mother explains this. This is all about integral yoga and Upanishads and the Veda. You will see immediately the link. She explains why this creation was made. Yeah? The Supreme had his own blissful state by his self-identity already. He has himself. He doesn't need anything. The whole bliss is within him, the whole truth, the whole consciousness, light, and power. So he is omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent, yes, and has all the bliss. But there is a but small, and that is Soma. But he wanted to have an additional delight. And that additional delight was not the delight of self-identity, but through unity. The delight of unity. Unity implies the diversity, that you are not alone anymore, that you are many. So that's why he went for this many. Yeah? Bahusyam, may I be many. And that multiplies the delight infinitely. He wanted to have the delight of unity, and not only the delight of identity. Mother even uses Ananda. He had Ananda of self-identity, but he wanted to have Ananda of unity. And that is additional delight, which manifestation generates, and it is unique in its taste. Because vidya and avidya, when both come together, the knowledge in time and space and knowledge beyond time and space, yeah? When they join together, they generate a totally unique delight. You remember how in the movie of Troy, how Achilles explains this to the princess whom he captured. She wanted to kill him, he explains to her how beautiful that gods are envying human beings. Envying because this moment of this, tragic event, of this peak of all the powers, is unique in the world and will never be repeated again. Was never before here. This delight is so unique that all the forces are attracted to that moment of time. It's infinitely different here and articulated in such a way that that Ananda cannot give. It's an amazing thing. Like every smallest detail is at the peak of itself, every moment of time. And that attracts every being. And that is the way of the manifestation of the Supreme. Supreme will be manifested through the individual form by that device. I remember, and that was very true what Selby also said, that in order to remember that you have to offer the delight, you have to remember it all the time. And then it comes to you that the delight to offer is the most delightful thing. You learn by doing it. When you do it, you immediately feel, oh, this delight came, and thank you immediately rises from your heart. You don't need to think it by the mind. Yeah. I remember this, the Henry V, maybe you know this, of Shakespeare, when they were fighting with French army, and they were like 5,000 of them against the army of 20,000 or something, and they were totally exhausted, 5,000 without weapon, sick, wounded, and they had to meet this fresh army, 20,000 on the horses, and they are fighting till this end, and Henry V, he doesn't know whether they are winning or they're losing. He doesn't see anything. It's all massacre. And then he, already exhausted, sits there, and then the messenger comes and says, you won the battle. And the first thing he says immediately, it's your victory, O Lord. And this is something amazing, yeah, to remember that in that moment of time, to that delight of victory he immediately gave to the Lord. That means he was fighting with this offering all the time. You cannot remember this if you don't remember at all. The other thing was interesting for me, what touched me when Gandhi was killed. You remember, he was shot. And his last words, when he was shot in the moment of time, I can't forget, Om Ram. This is amazing, You're sure you have to run, and no running, you just last offering. So this is something of that kind. It actually makes you free and makes you truly enjoy the manifestation.
It's a very beautiful thing. I mean, it's just in a very trivial way. I do watch sports a lot. And then when I see the basketball being scored or the football, he's scored a goal, they always point up to heaven. They always point up to heaven.
Yeah. Indians have this inbuilt in them, in their culture. They immediately remember what it is for. Yeah.
But then on the other side, you also see many sportsmen who they pull the most egoistic faces when they score a goal, and then you can see that there's no offering there.
Yeah, it's all driven by ego anyway. But just that action of pointing up is very nice, I feel.
Yeah, things are mixed, of course. People offer mentally and not really truly. It depends how true that offering is, yes. I can speak all the time that I'm offering, but I'm not. Yeah? I'm egoistically driven for my own satisfaction. And that is happening most of the time. It's very rare that you do true offering. Even for us who know this, it's not so often.
Vladimir, I wanted to say that, you do see delight even in those circumstances of life which are not very happy, even in painful circumstances. If you really offer, then you do see the delight behind the pain.
Right.
Because, yeah. So it's not just that Soma is pressed out of delightful experiences and happy experiences. It also lies within pain and suffering.
Behind them, yeah.
Behind it.
Behind the event,
But
which
one
we
has to
consider
be,
to be painful, yes, right.
yeah. But one has to be very conscious,
Mm-hmm.
very, very conscious in this remember and offer also. It only happens when you're conscious and awake.
Absolutely. That's very good what you mentioned, because Sri Aurobindo also speaks about the bhaga, about that delight, yeah, which is in everything and every event, and even in the killing and being killed, even in the form which should be far away from the delight. There is a delight behind. Because the soul is immortal, it knows it. In that moment, that immortality is activated strongest. Yeah? People who die, it's quite interesting. There is even such a saying that until the end, you are not really free. But when you know that the end comes, you feel that finally, you feel that inner self, that all those other conditionings are gone and cannot be brought back. And then in that moment of time, people feel free. Before dying, many people become totally conscious. In the moment when before dying, like one moment, my grandmother was totally unconscious so long, but before dying, she opened eyes and looked so consciously at all of us. So clearly her consciousness was, and then whoom, and she left. There's something amazing about this consciousness, yeah, of our. So of course, knowing that we are immortal, even suffering can be very productive for Soma, as you will. Yeah, it all depends on remember and offer. You remember how Sri Aurobindo in his Savitri speaks, not Sri Aurobindo, but the Lord speaks to Savitri after her liberation, that I will be with you in your disastrous state and in your pain, in your suffering, I will be there with you all the time. Yes. This is that generation of Soma will be there. So. Yeah, this mysterious world. Sri Aurobindo says somewhere that delight dared to step on forbidden ground of inconscience. And from there it starts pushing forward the whole manifestation as eros, as karma, this karma flame, yes, breaking through darkness, building new bodies, building the possibility of new consciousness to get more delight generated by the soul. And we have to see it as one event, a huge evolutionary event. All right, we will stop here for today, and we'll take next time the hymn to Surya from. So we are moving to hymns to Surya now, because the Savitar hymns are over. 150 from for the first mandala. right, let's close with mantra. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Namaste.